You are listening to Kickspot.
All right, y'all. As devastated as I am, I'm bringing it back. Part 2 of the Clipper debacle.
Yeah, and if you listen to part 1, obviously we talked a lot about what happened, or actually in the Clippers stance, what didn't happen.
Damn, dude.
And also, if you notice, we have a Clippers fan that is actually gone. So from part 1, Henry had left, and I think we hurt his feelings.
No,
and that's why he didn't join us.
He's on a business call outside my house right
Are you
now.
sure?
He's probably calling somebody for help, right? He's like, "Are the Clippers going to Seattle? I'm freaking out right now."
He needs the inside scoop.
So obviously he is not with us right now. So we've only got one technical Clippers fan in our show, or on our show right now. But I want to ask you, how did you become a Clippers fan?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
So, I'll give you guys a little history background. Is that Henry? Are you done with your phone call? All right.
Yeah, come through. Come through. Did you? You're done crying, right?
Yeah. Great job, dude.
Join us.
Way to ruin the
down here.
podcast.
He had to cry. So Migs, tell us why or how you became a Clippers fan.
Well, I'll give a little history background of the organization, right? So the Clippers. Do you guys know how long the Clippers have been around?
Since they were the Braves?
Yeah.
I'm guessing 50 years.
Yeah, 1970. So this was the 50th year.
Wow.
So how special would it have been, right, for us to actually have a breakthrough to get to the conference finals, even the finals, maybe win it all. I don't freaking know. You know, like it would have been very special, right? We were started off as Buffalo Braves, San Diego Clippers, back in 78, and then became the Los Angeles Clippers in 84, right? And then since then, LA Clippers. And then, so I became a fan. When did I become a fan? I became a fan when I moved here from the Philippines. Originally,
did you know there were the Clippers?
Yeah,
when you're in the Philippines?
Dude, we watch NBA. Dude, you act like the Clippers, I mean, the Philippines is like a fifth world country, bro.
No, I'm just saying it's not the most popular.
The most popular teams get the exposure.
So my original team back at home was the Pacers because I was a big Reggie Miller fan. You guys know that.
Yeah.
Like, I have all the jerseys.
And you like losers, period. Ain't never won a chip either.
Shut your mouth. So
Reggie Miller to himself.
I don't know if you guys know, but like in the Philippines, like we as kids we gravitate towards shooters, like a ton, like like just shooters. Period. Right?
You don't say.
Like Ray Allen was one of my biggest like idols back in the day.
Okay.
Even like the PBA guys that like I adore, like that I look up to, were like all shooters. So but originally I was a Pacer fan back at home, and also a Magic fan. I was a big Anthony Hardaway fan, like obsessed with Penny. And then when my parents decided to bamboozle us kids and decided to stay in the States and not go back home and let me play basketball with my 6th grade team, then like we were in San Francisco for like 6 months to live with my grandparents. I was a Kings fan when I got here originally.
Okay.
Like, because I like Jason Williams and Chris Webber.
And Doug Christie, probably.
Yeah, and Doug Christie, yeah. And then when we moved down south, just PSA, right? I was a Laker fan at one point.
Okay.
Now the truth comes out.
Every Clippers fan.
So, no. So I'll say this. Eddie Jones was my favorite.
Okay.
I got salty when they
Nice.
brought Kobe in. Because Nick the Quick and Eddie Jones were like my 2 favorite Lakers of all time. And then they brought Kobe in, and then they traded EJ to Miami.
Yep.
And I was really salty about that because I felt like that duo was going to be good, They were good for like a year. You know what I mean? But so, and then next thing you know, I started gravitating towards like, I don't know, for some reason, like I watched this Clipper game and I was like, oh, damn, then they won the game. But I knew they sucked. But the following year is when they drafted like Lamar and Hugh Rich. And Keon Dooling, right? They had dumbass Sean Livingston 2-3 years after that.
God.
But like the Lamar Odom, Darius Miles, Q Rich era was the team that got me really became a fan of the Clippers just because it was so much fun to watch. I didn't care if they were losing. I knew they sucked. You know, I was still rooting for Sacramento because they were going up against the Lakers throughout those years. You know, I was rooting for Portland to beat the Lakers, you know.
How'd that go?
Obviously it didn't go well, right? All I'm saying is shut the fuck up, all right? Like, let me speak, dog. And then, like, so I became a Clipper fan that way, where Corey Maggette,
Oh my God.
Elton Brand, like, and then they got BD.
Squad.
And then they got BD. And they got
Squad. All these players, squad.
Katino Mobley, right? And then they didn't know that Katino Mobley moved to Laguna Beach. And next thing you know, I was playing ball with Katino Mobley.
Yep.
You know, like, and it was crazy. So that made me really become a Clipper fan. And just being like that underdog, like that no one really wanted to, like, root for, I just felt like I was that kid too. Like, coming from the Philippines, not really knowing a lot of people here, I had to make my own friends. I had to figure shit out. Like, I felt like I was an underdog. So I gravitated towards a team that was like that, where no one was really looking at you. And then once you started really making some heat, some noise, then people started looking at you. Exactly what happened, right? The only thing that's different between me and the Clippers is I don't disappoint. That's the only thing, you know? Like, and
All right.
so
Henry.
that's how I feel.
I just blanked out after that. So Henry, is your story similar to Migs's?
Yeah, it's similar, but except, you know, so I like the Clippers because when I came to the States, my brother has already been a Clippers fan.
Okay.
So all the games we watch, we always root for the Clippers, and it just kind of grew on me.
Okay.
And as I watch more basketball, I was like, man, yeah, the Clippers, same as Migs. So Clippers is the underdog, and they're really fun to watch. And I know we suck, but it's still fun to watch them, you know. So that's how I became a Clippers fan, and I stuck through the thick and thin. You know, the 2005-2006 playoff, dude, that sucked.
Oh,
But
I mean, it was good, but it's like,
Yeah, it sucked. But, you know, like, I just like that underdog mentality. But now in the current Clippers, I'm a little, man, like, they just need to shut the fuck up.
I respect you guys for sticking with it.
I mean, I know how that feels because, I mean, I'm a Sonics fan.
Yeah.
So when you talk about one of the worst teams, I mean, I think Clippers now could say that they're probably one of the worst basketball teams. But for the longest time, the Sonics were horrible. And, you know, at least you guys have a team still.
The difference
To-
is
to-
you
to
guys
afford.
actually have a championship.
You guys
You have
just
one.
a squad.
Just one.
Do you know what year?
70s?
78?
No, 73.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have one, but I mean, we don't have a team anymore. So I understand the whole, you're rooting for the underdog. You're rooting, you know, for those guys. I mean, I love the battle between, like, you know, Jordan versus, like, Gary Payton
Yeah,
trash
yeah.
talking.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
that was very memorable for me, and I always cherish that moment. But we don't have a team. So I completely understand
So you
how you're
didn't.
feeling
So
right
you
now.
wouldn't go for Oklahoma. So, like, you wouldn't claim Oklahoma as your team.
I would never claim OKC. I would never claim
bro.
OKC. Fuck
Damn.
OKC. I would never.
So to answer your question earlier, I probably would do the same. I don't think I can claim Seattle, whatever the name is,
If the Clippers leave.
if the Clippers move, right? It's just because you just have that pride, right? Like, you don't.
Absolutely.
They never came from that city, you know. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I respect that.
Were you always a Lakers fan?
Yeah. Well, no.
oh yeah, what? He's got two teams also, by the way.
The series that got me to be a Lakers fan was that Kings series he's talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
But at first, I didn't even really like basketball when I came here.
Yeah, yeah.
But I started falling in love with Tracy McGrady.
Ooh,
the
wait, the
Magic?
Magic?
Yeah,
or
Magic,
the Raptors?
Magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Magic Tracy. Bought the shoes, the jersey,
yeah.
his T-Mac line, everything. But obviously, I didn't see too many T-Mac games. And then I think we're at some baseball party for the end of the season, and they were playing the Lakers Kings game, and that's when I fell in love with the Lakers.
And so you switched during the game when you were rooting for.
Yeah,
he
I went
does that
from
all the time.
shooting. I went from
interesting.
being a T-Mac fan to being a fan of an actual team.
Yeah, he also switched during our third period, like when we were playing basketball. He for some odd reason showed up with a Steph Curry jersey. He changed his jersey to a Steph Curry.
Let me tell
jersey
you why.
During halftime,
Let me tell you why.
during our league game.
Just a quick story on that. 2010, 2011,
yeah.
we get swept by the Mavs. In my head, I'm like, this is it, end of an era. You know, I even wrote on Facebook, "I love you, Lakers." I was so sad, you know. But for some reason, I was like, "This is it. Like, I don't think we're winning another one." Chris Paul failed trade. All that stuff happened, and then I was actively rooting for Memphis. You know, they had some really tough series against the Clippers and the Warriors. You know, back and forth.
Those were
couple years.
Those were fun.
And I chose the Warriors because I was like, this is it. This is the best chance for the Lakers to keep their throne in LA. Is the Warriors will stand in the way. So that was my main reason. The other reason, I didn't like LeBron. I have to admit it, but now I love him. And I didn't want LeBron to get another one, to get to more than Kobe. That was my whole thing.
You didn't like LeBron?
I didn't like LeBron.
I don't think he'll get more than Kobe.
We don't know now.
This is his 5th, right? If he wins.
No,
it.
this is fourth.
Oh, if
He won't.
But
get
in my
more.
mind, I protecting that legacy was so
Kobe?
important for the Lakers and for Kobe.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
the Clippers win, that's it. Oh, not only is it an end of an era, beginning of a new one.
Yeah.
If LeBron wins, then Kobe, you know, to me, doesn't become the best.
What
or
didn't
isn't
you
the
like
best.
about LeBron?
When I really started paying attention was this year that he lost against Durant the first time, and he really
against the Warriors.
against the Warriors,
Okay.
and he really started. You know, it wasn't just about basketball, but it was about social issues and social causes. And I was like, and then I also saw, dude, this guy's leaving it all on the court, no help pretty much with all the superstars that he plays with, all the stars that he plays with, and I was like, man, he's really like leaves it all on the court. So that's when I changed.
Oh, that's shocking. I've always liked LeBron. I remember when he first came into the league and everybody was criticizing him like, oh, he can't ever be as good as, you know, Kobe or Jordan or whatever.
Or Jordan, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, he's an amazing athlete. Like from a high school player till, you know, now. I mean, he's always been great. I mean, I think about that about Zion. I think if he could be like, you know, not get injured, I think he's going to be one of the greatest players as well too. I did bring that up in the past, top 100 basketball players. But I mean, those guys from when they start that young, I mean, those guys are designed to become really, really good. You know.
Yeah.
So I've always liked LeBron. Everybody criticized me in the past though.
Yeah.
For being a LeBron fan.
I think a lot of people just criticize LeBron. Period. You know, just because of how, I don't think people want to have him part of the discussion with Kobe and Michael.
Right.
You know, I think that was the biggest thing, right? Like, because people see those two as like the GOAT. LeBron's just a different GOAT, and I think we all talked about it.
Yeah.
You know, he's just a freakishly different GOAT.
I mean, in the finals that he's lost, he's been the best player on the losing team, and that just speaks volumes. I mean, how many times do you ever see that? You know, and self-made, father of 3, without a father figure in his life. He made, he got his friends in positions of power to make impact. So, I mean, what's not to love? I mean, I was just an asinine idiot, you know.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean,
What about like when people criticize him flopping?
yeah, I mean, who doesn't flop in the NBA?
Yeah. Nowadays,
And he played with Anderson Varejao, who's the biggest flopper. So of course he's gonna rub off on you. You know, you remember that guy, man. That guy should have been suspended for so much flopping.
I don't know if I'll get criticized for saying this, but I think that a lot of times people do foul LeBron.
Oh yeah.
I think the way that he's built and the way that he plays, like he's designed for somebody to foul him, and I think he doesn't get a lot of the calls.
Yeah.
when there are fouls.
I agree on that.
Trying to bring attention to it, I guess.
Yeah, and then so when he does like, you know, kind of flop a little bit, like or flops in general, like people criticize him saying that he flops a lot, but I mean, when they slow it down, he does get fouled so many times and never gets the calls.
flopping. Yeah, I mean, the Clippers definitely flopped that series.
Yeah, Blake Griffin and CP3 were pretty good at flopping.
I'll tell you that.
Just like the Clippers, man.
Blake is better though. Blake's a better flopper though.
I mean, speaking of them, like you brought up that they're probably one of the best teams as far as for the Clippers. Are there any other players that were acquired that you were like, I wish we had retained them, and then they would have just
let's
made
talk
it?
about this.
Oh my
Great
God.
question.
Yeah.
That's the best question you've asked, JP. ever in our show. Ever.
All right, Kickspot, I'm out.
So if we're talking about like who we should have kept and then who we should have traded throughout the years, I mean, a plethora, you know, especially in recent times right now, right? One of them, let's just talk about the most recent one, all right? Who did we give up our fucking 7 years of future for?
Alexander.
SGA. We
SGA.
gave up this kid, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Generational talent.
I don't know about generational, but he's definitely, I feel like, an all-star. I mean, and he's playing next to not only the greatest leader in the NBA at this age, right? But the one that you considered, maybe besides Nate Archibald, Isaiah Thomas, the point guard. Like the quintessential point guard, Chris Paul. You're learning from that guy. And you're going to continue to learn from that guy. We gave that kid up. I don't care about Danilo. Danilo is always going to be a 17, 16, 18 point per game player.
Yeah.
But like SGA was the kid. But we gave up somebody that didn't even show up game 7, right? That barely showed up during the first round. Finally showed up in the second round, right? But when things mattered, he didn't show up, right? Kawhi did everything. I can't get
He
mad
was
at
gassed.
Kawhi. He was gassed. And
I'm
you can
not-
tell he was gassed in
Yeah.
game 7, right?
Yeah, I saw that meme.
Yeah, that's one player. Another player that I feel like we should have never gave up, to be honest with you, that I felt like could have beaten that Rockets team, could have beaten, any of the Golden State team, was Darren Collison. We didn't have a solid backup. I felt like if we kept Darren Collison, we definitely could have gotten at least to the Western Conference Finals with him, Blake, him coming off the bench, because I felt like we had the squad.
Where did he go?
The Pacers.
Yeah.
He was traded to the Pacers, or he
think
just
free
went to
agent.
the
I think-
free agency?
Yeah, free agency.
Yeah.
And we didn't re-sign him. We also didn't re-sign Eric Bledsoe.
Yeah.
And we kept the guys that I felt like does help, but like they don't really make the plus minus impact that they should be making, like those guys, right?
Jermichael Green's not going to be an X factor.
But you know what though? I appreciate Jermichael because he showed up in game 7. Out of all, like we were watching the game and I'm like, yo, he's the only one that's really playing.
Yeah.
Henry, who do you think we should never gave up?
Definitely SGA. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I was really sad when he was gone, man. When he traded
Man.
him and Danilo and 7 first-round picks. Seven
that's
first-round
crazy,
picks.
Going back to
For PG.
Blake.
That's
How
going
about
back
that?
to Blake. Yeah, going back to Blake, man.
Tell me that. I mean, you sign an extension, you do this whole charade. I mean, I'm going to leave it for the next segment because I got some clowning to do about that. But you tell him, we want you to retire as a Clipper, and then you trade
talking
him.
about DeAndre or Blake?
No, Blake.
Oh, yeah.
And then you trade him in the middle of the season.
Yeah, I don't like how the whole thing went down though. I mean,
Blake is hurt, though.
I don't know. It's, the times I watch Blake, like season after season, the more I notice that he slows the game.
Yeah,
down,
yeah. I get that.
So after that, I'm like, okay, we need to make a change. But I didn't like how that went down.
Yeah, 100%. Like, no, Blake put the Clippers on the map.
Of course.
Yep.
Dude, there's a thing called Lob City, for crying out loud. It's because of Blake. It's because of DeAndre. It's because of CP throwing the lobs. We had an identity, and that we never had back in the day.
For the first time in Clippers history.
You know what I'm saying? They gave Clippers identity, bro. Like that's like the frustrating part, the way they dealt Blake, and I just felt like that was so disrespectful.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we're gonna talk about other like players, I mean, like El Cabrera was kind of like on his way out, right? But like, to be honest, like, I don't know, we like picking up players that were old.
Yeah.
Paul Pierce,
Do you guys remember Mo Williams?
Mo Williams.
Oh, Mo Williams played.
Yeah.
Chauncey.
Chauncey, Chauncey still was actually pretty damn good. Like when he played for us. Sam Cassell put us on the map too.
Oh, Sam.
Right? Sam Cassell put us on the map too. Like, brought us all the way to the second round against Phoenix. We just lost, right? So, and it is one of those things where it just like we're cursed or we just like having unfortunate circumstances.
I think it's just bad leadership.
Yes.
I think that what you look at the Lakers organization, how they have like a strategic plan. I mean, you get LeBron involved in a lot of the conversations as well too, and sometimes like analysts like criticize that for some reason. But I mean, I think if you trust a player like that, that shows how much like trust you have in that person, and it's going to show on the court.
Okay.
And whenever you recruit somebody, it's like, hey, this is like how they treat me, within the organization. I don't really hear anything about the Clippers leadership. But I mean, looking at the record too, I mean, when Doc came in, it was like a fresh breath air, and that's when you guys had the best record at 57-25, and from then on, it's like downhill from there. So something's got to change, I think, in the leadership perspective, so you can retain and recruit the right people.
Well,
Doc has to change.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
also, I don't know if you guys know, but for a very long time, the Clipper organization had a racist owner.
Yes.
I mean, there's a documentary on Quibi about it, and I mean, Doc held that team together. So I don't necessarily think that there's no leadership in the organization. I think you made a great point as far as an organizational structure that could possibly be better, right? Now we have the money, right? Because Steve Ballmer's a billionaire.
Right.
We have all the resources in the world. However, I just feel like, just like with Mike Dunleavy back in the day, where he was wearing too big of a hat. Like Mike Dunleavy was the head coach
And the GM.
And
same with Doc.
And same with Doc. Like I think he's running. I don't know if he's the president of basketball operations. Like I just feel like every decision has to go through him. That either give the coaching position to someone else, or stick to coaching and let the personnel acquisitions to Lawrence Frank or whoever else.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm very grateful for Jerry West.
Well,
that was a hire though. Like we had to get him to have some sort of order.
Well, one of the interesting things that you just said was that we have Steve Ballmer, we have the money,
Right.
which then just tells you that it is leadership that you're lacking, right? If you have tons of money, you're pouring those resources already into the franchise. I mean, think about someone like Mark Cuban. There's a lot of players that would want to, go into playing for Mark Cuban. I mean, there's talks about players going into the visitor side, and the visitor side when players walk in is super nice. Sometimes it's better than their home side when they go back home. But just think about that mentality. When a player goes in there and they say, "Shit, this is the players. This is the visitor side. I wonder what the home side's gonna look like." Right. Just that mentality and that leadership right there tells you a lot about an organization. And Steve Ballmer is super rich. I mean, like I said, he's pouring resources in there. I think there's some type of lack of leadership within the organization.
Right. Yeah,
There's pieces in there that's
100%,
missing.
100%. Because if you look at San Antonio, how did San Antonio build a 20+ year run? Pop, right? I mean, they have R.C. Buford, like one of the best execs in NBA history.
They
right?
won 5 and 20, right? 5 championships in 20 years.
Yeah, I mean,
since their playoff streak started.
That's pretty legit.
That's amazing.
I mean, Toronto, right? I mean, great leadership in Toronto also.
Yep.
I mean, I think every organization has great leadership unless you're the Knicks, like just fucking shitty ass Knicks ownership. But other than that, like I think every single team really has leadership. But I think to your point, there's a disconnect in the Clippers organizational leadership structure that has to change. Because, I mean, to be honest, if you don't have great leaders, you won't be able to attract Kawhi or PG to come play with you.
Of course.
Right? Like, you have to have some leadership in there.
Well, I can tell you the reason why we lost a team in Seattle was because of leadership. If you look at documentaries of like Gary Payton talking, he talks a lot about how Schwartz had a disconnect with how he wants to run the organization. The Starbucks model is all about the employees. And so he was running the organization where it was all about the Sonics players, and their players would always tell him, it's about the fans, it's not about us. And they would always say that, and little by little, they would start losing all these fans. So it definitely, to me, is some type of lack of leadership in there. But,
Man, Seattle could have had a great run with Russ, James,
Oh, can you imagine?
KD. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
yeah.
That's like the second coming of Rashard Lewis, Ray Allen.
And it's not that small of a market. I mean,
No, dude.
Amazon's small up there.
No, bro, Seattle's big, bro.
Seattle
so
per
it's
capita
big.
is the richest state in the nation.
Yeah, bro.
I mean,
Wow.
you got,
Seattle's
I didn't know
lit.
that.
yeah, Amazon, Microsoft, you got the richest people up there. Starbucks, Costco, I mean, Nintendo. You got all these big-ass companies that are there, and it's very disappointing to see that we don't even have a team, and Sacramento has a
You
team.
know what? Karma. They'll never win a championship.
I'm bringing that up. Sacramento has a team, and actually, there's I remember we invested $42 million into getting the Kings and the NBA organization.
Oh,
still
that's
said
right.
No. They said no
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
That's
yeah, I
right.
remember
because there's somebody that doesn't like Seattle.
I remember that.
from
I
what
remember
happened
that.
in the past. I don't know if it's like Stern or
It
somebody.
was
but-
probably CERN. He's just an asshole.
Yeah, but
Rotten
he
hell.
someone doesn't like Seattle in general, and even when the NBA said that we want more money, we gave it to them, and so we still don't have a team.
Wow.
So
I feel you.
Yeah,
I feel you, man.
it's
That's
horrible.
it's rough.
You know, I'm obviously getting upset, but getting riled up because I want a true team up in Seattle. But as we're in these like group chats with all of us, I remember when the Clippers lost, Franco was going off.
All right,
Franco was just going off, and if we could just bring up some of the text messages and read them off in the next
I'd be glad
segment,
to.
that would be amazing.
I'd be happy to.
But it was basically a 2-hour rant, and we don't have a 2-hour show.
No, we'll
and our
keep it
time
quick.
is up at part 2. So when we come back and go into part 3, oh man, I'm excited about Franco's rants here. All right.
You are listening to Kickspot.